Oh, Philly coming out ahead in this fight already here.
Swoosh wanting to clear the high ground right out. The amount of damage this guy could do.
Philly with a real chance to flip the point here.
Okay.
Logics, he's relentless.
And that is going to be the job done.
This guy just can't seem to miss.
Oh, that hurts. It hurts to watch.
Carpe sets him up and Shadowburn knocks him down.
Oh, the Style Boys finally turned the tide.
Hello, everyone. We have reached the final day of our opening week of Stage 2 here at the Overwatch League, and boy, has it been an exciting one. We've seen a whole bunch of new strategies with this new map pool. We've seen a host and a variety of characters being played with this new meta, and we've seen the teams get all these new acquisitions and adjust to them. It's been awesome, and we have another awesome day planned for you guys today as well. Are you guys excited for today, what we got going on today? Give it up, everybody. Let's get this day rolling and send it over to the desk with Puckett.
Thank you so much, Malik. That's right, Blizzard Arena, it's Saturday. Make some noise! Welcome back, everybody. We are in the best place on the planet, the Blizzard Arena, and this is your Overwatch League regular season. Now, we finished Stage 1. London, they wore the crown back then, but it's a brand new stage. Now we're getting into the action, and to bring you all the action here in Stage 2, we've got the breadcrumbs as well as Zoe once again.
Ready to feed the pigeons, baby.
Pigeons, that's what you're gonna feed? I like it.
Why? That's what you do with breadcrumbs. You throw it to the
You
bird.
shouldn't actually feed pigeons bread, by the way.
We're gonna keep this moving here with some standings, guys. Let's talk about the league here as we take a look at where we're at right now. Now remember, we're gonna play 40 matches per team throughout the regular season. New York, they're still in the #1 spot. Seoul, Houston, London right behind them. But today, we're gonna keep our eyes on these middle teams because in Stage 2, it's a fresh start. It's all about how you finish this set of 10 matches.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at Seoul Dynasty back on top again. You know, I'm so happy to see this now, and I had a feeling this was going to be happening with the meta. We've been moving into it, but Seoul back on top once again, no surprises there. Houston creeping up behind them.
Yeah, I think Houston's the one to keep your eyes on because this team is working hard to go for that Stage 2 playoffs, rather.
The maps matter so much as we saw towards the end of the Stage 1 run. Today, we'll keep an eye on Philadelphia as they match up against the Mayhem and, of course, the Outlaws. Will they be able to get another big win over the Boston Uprising? But it's time to start it right now as we bring our first team to the stage. Give it up for the team from Philadelphia. It's the Fusion. Carpe leading the charge, EQO right behind him, and this squad got some massive revenge against Boston. They got the 4-0 this time around, and we saw some amazing plays from the new guy, EQO.
We really did. So I got to talk to their coach when they are fielding EQO instead of Shadowburn, and he told me that they found out they have a really good synergy in terms of shot calling with their support Neptuno and EQO, whereas Shadowburn, shockingly, is not quite as vocal.
I mean, you need communication to make the teamwork be efficient, and that's what was missing in the Philadelphia Fusion. They didn't have enough practice, and the fact that you added EQO is such a big shock because you would have never imagined that this team would have improved if they put somebody else over Shadowburn.
Yeah, and in general, I feel like Philadelphia in this game today, if they want to take a win against the Florida Mayhem, their dive has got to be on point. But if their game against Boston is anything to go by, there is 100% going to be no issues there. EQO, this guy popped off on a numerous basis. The Hanamura in general as well. That first map, it was clean, it was concise. I loved it.
Poco's got some good wink game
I
there.
was going to say, was that a mini kiss coming in from Neptuno at the end? A lot of fans here in the venue cheering on the Philadelphia Fusion. But we know there is one team that everybody waits to see. How will they enter the stage? Today we find out what does the Mayhem have in store for us. Swoosh leading the charge for the Mayhem today, and in the new meta, they are going to need their main tank. This squad fell short in their matchup against Dallas, though, a little bit earlier in the week.
We gotta see what this is, though.
Nailed it!
I love how they settle in into that Florida spirit. And also, they had a really good start in stage 2. They looked solid in their game against the NYXL, even though this NYXL, too many letters. The score did not quite suggest how competitive that match actually was. And it was great to see them stepping up the game. Mainly this guy, Logix, really showed it.
And even though this team only has one win, you know, you say they're competitive against New York, and that's exactly it. This team is just a tease. They're constantly, by the way, his camera is angled because he plays with an angled monitor. That's why it looks like that.
I like that.
FPS, keyboard angles, switching it up. But anyways, this team is always just teasing you. They're always just barely getting the win, but always falling short. Why do they fall short, Brent?
Now, before we get to that, Brent, real quick, Manitin and I made an agreement in the green room today while we were getting our makeup done. He said, I will grow out my mustache as long as we keep winning games in stage 2. Florida, you have another reason to cheer it on. Everyone wants to see that Manitin stash.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't at the end of the day? And speaking of stashes, Swoosh, where's that gone, mate? Honestly, he had a nice little beard going on earlier on in the season. Chopped it all off. I want to see how deep this Viking blood can really start flowing.
I love this squad. Unfortunately, their record isn't great. They're just 1-10, but this is stage 2, and you know they can climb to the top of the leaderboard. Let's talk about the strategies we expect to see from both of these teams. I feel like we've already got a nice sample from earlier in the week.
Yes, so both these teams, they love to play this aggressive, fast-paced dive comps, right? And this is like what Florida used to run way back in the day when they were known as Misfits, and this is Philadelphia Fusion. Like you mentioned earlier, it feels like this team is coming home now when they're running this dive composition. And this is why it's interesting to me, because if neither of these teams now adapt their play style, if none of them play the anti-dive and slow it down a little bit, they're just going to be chucking bodies against each other and just seeing what happens. It's going to be a super entertaining game no matter what.
I mean, you said dive a million times there, and if you're at home and you don't really know what a dive means, it's these compositions that require a lot of mobility. So you've got your Diva, Winston, Tracer, Genji, very standard compositions, and what it does is that it immediately goes for the high-value targets, which typically tend to be supports. That's what we can expect to see out of today. You see right there, Tracers killing backline. That's what dive composition is all about. And what ends up happening is that supports die a lot in this kind of play style. So if both teams are going to be clashing, supports are going to be feeding like crazy. Whoever can be the better Zenyatta, stay alive, hit some frags, hit some key ultimates, will make a big difference.
Yeah, we saw some Philly highlights. Here's some from the Mayhem as well. And Brent, you mentioned that the Misfits, before they were the Mayhem, they were the Misfits. They were kings of the dive at time. Who are the best divers on this squad? Who should the fans be watching?
So in general, actually, one player I want everybody to be looking at is something that you might not expect. It's Zebasai on the Lucio role, okay? Because the Lucio plays a very integral part of the dive comp, right? You need to be moving in with the rest of your team, using a speed boost at the right time, and following up with your own damage. I mean, Lucio doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's significant enough that you need to be on point with it. I mean, we saw a few clips there. Zebasai, he was booping people off the map on Lijiang Tower, you know? He's got no problems turning up when needed. But in general, yeah, that's what I want to be looking out for here today in this map. Zebasai turning up, working with his team like he did in the past.
Zebasai is excited for the dive meta. Philadelphia mentioned they're excited as well. Now, Zoe, why is this team pumped? Because they didn't exist until the Overwatch League, and when they started, it was all the Mercy meta.
That's true, but the thing is, and I think Brent just repeated what I already said, so I repeat what he repeated what I already said. They are coming home. It's getting really complicated. But when they had their tryouts, when they formed the team, this meta right now is a lot closer to what it's been back then, and this is when they first gelled. This is when they first got together. So this is going to feel like coming home. They're very happy with this meta. Mayhem also, so I expect a really good match from both of those teams.
Crumbs, final question for you. We have Hanamura as our first map in this 4-map series. Let's talk a little bit about the teams, because Philadelphia, they were able to get a win against Boston. Meanwhile, we saw Florida struggle in their matchup. So what does the Mayhem need to do if they want to start off this series with a win?
Well, to be fair, the Mayhem did play against New York. It's New York. You've got Pine and Libero popping off at the time. But I think what Mayhem needs to do is just recognize the tempo with your ultimates to be able to snowball these maps. They're very snowbally points. Even the first one to cap, you typically tend to stack up a couple of key ultimates, then you go in. As long as they can utilize those timing windows well and transition to the second point, I think they'll be fine for Hanamura.
We'll see if Florida can get it started with a big win. Are you guys ready here in LA? Let's get it going as we send it backstage to Uber and Mr. X.
Thank you very much, Puckett. There's no better way to start off a Saturday with a blockbuster like this one. Now, on paper, it was talked about on the deathmat. 1 in 10 for the Mayhem. Not an impressive scoreline. But the last time these two teams went head-to-head, it was anything but a snorefest.
The Mayhem don't feel like a 1 in 10 team, though. I feel like a lot of their matches have been so close that it almost feels like they have more wins than just one. It's kind of odd to think of them as a 1-10 team. The first map, like they said, will be Hanamura. You know, this is a meta that favors both of these teams more than it did in stage 1. I'm excited to see what Philadelphia does in this stage as a whole.
Woo!
That looks so great.
How about that? It's like you've never seen that before. It does look very good. It's nice to get these new maps, Matt, obviously in and adorn the Blizzard Arena with some cherry blossoms. This map was very good for the Florida Mayhem early on in the week. We saw them actually play up really nicely against New York on this map, push them to the limit. Some cheeky plays. We know that the Florida Mayhem on the attacking side, Matt, they like to transition onto that second point by going the left side. Right down the camera there, you can see they go around the outside, and they actually caught New York off guard and managed to get a quick cap on their first attack by doing so.
Yeah, when you go to that point B, you're going to need that Soldier 76 presence up top, right? I think Tvik can definitely provide that for you for the Florida Mayhem. This seems to be a good map pool for Soldier 76 in general. You know, a lot of high ground on a lot of the maps in the Stage 2 map pool. You can control. They'll kind of maybe run that 76 with the Ana, right? You kind of bait that dive to come in, biotic grenade those players as well, deny them a ton of healing. It'll be Florida Mayhem on defense. They will be running the Zen and Ana combination. They'll have Tvik play the 76. So it's a lot like what I talk about. Tvik will hold that position where he is right now. They'll wait for that dive to come in and then hopefully hit a bunch of people with a biotic grenade, prevent all that healing.
Set up here for Florida. We discussed this morning, the 76 map. We're seeing a fair bit of Soldier 76 right now. It's a fairly safe, a robust decision. But it might just be that teams are running him because they're maybe not convinced that there's a better approach right now. It's kind of the lowest risk DPS. Maybe they don't know how to play flankers too much around this tankier Moira, Lucio-based meta.
Yeah, I think it's just a safe comfort pick. A lot of what was going on before the Mercy meta, just kind of coming back here. The Fusion, for a second, it looked like EQO is going to lock in May, but he'll go to Genji. So this will be a standard dive composition coming out for the Philadelphia Fusion. See what they can make work. EQO was so fantastic in their match the other day. Excited to get a chance to watch him play again.
I'm surprised he can keep his head up with all the gel he's got in his hair. The other guy loads it in, looking like that's solid as his gameplay has been. He actually holds the blade for longer than Shadowburn, which is interesting. It's just something we talk about Shadowburn doing all the time. Forced recall here for Logix. Frankie was quite low in the low ground, but Carpe's able to defend his Winston, give Frankie a chance to heal up, and the Fusion have already made great inroads in accessing this first point.
Yeah, instead of diving onto that 76 in the back, they've kind of gone the opposite route, just taking Snake on the point, which is going to be tough. You have Logix trying to get on the point for the Mayhem, but if they kind of go too far away from Zupe or Zebasai, they're going to get picked off.
Now, Florida are being forced to stand and deliver now on the point. They have to contest this one. They've pretty much got a tick there already, and now it's going to be Tvik dropping down. This is when the hammer meets the anvil. Carpe in a great position to do work. Pulse Bomb won't be required in this fight unless he wants to get a finish on one of these big tanks, but it may not be necessary. Over the top goes Swoosh. He drops the Pulse Bomb. A little bit of a gift at the feet of Swoosh. And there's nothing he can do but to accept it to his own demise.
You see, once they see those supports alone on that back left, that's when the dive comes in. They're able to take out Zupe and Zebo.
What is that about?
The tactical crouch is coming out early here on Saturday.
Okay.
Map number 1.
Carpe's never been one to hold back his true feelings, but why you put an X over Overwatch, bro? That's how you're making your living, son.
All right.
EQ Dragon Blade available now off the extra damage he got from reflecting a couple orbs back in Zebasai's direction.
Well, they have Dragon Blade and they have Transcendence for this fight. No support ult on the side of the Florida Mayhem, and because they're running the Ana, they only really have one of those big survivals, sustain ults with that Transcendence, which they don't have yet. So there is a window of opportunity here for Philadelphia to really kind of make a great attempt to take point B.
EQ would love to go into the Dragon Blade right now, but he needs to see those main tanks on the Florida Mayhem get a little bit lower in HP. It's going to be a Transcendence on the high ground here, so Philadelphia fancy a bit more of a robust approach towards this point, keeping themselves topped up on the high ground. Echo needs to go up and get to it. He's low on HP, forced into a reflect. Manhattan in his face. Poco's trying to peel for him. They do get the DC, it's actually a self-destruct. So EQO needs to back right up here, and the Mayhem have a lot of ultimates to cycle through, but so do the Fusion, Matt. EQO with a sound barrier, waiting for a chance to get that Dragon Blade in, but he finds Logix with a melee.
Yeah, I think they were just waiting to get this Transcendence out. Zebasai finally uses it, but there's nobody alive. Swoosh gets a nano boost, jumps up top. He's going to get hit with a Pulse Bomb, gets quite low. Now the Blade's going to come out.
Tvik trying to get away, but unfortunately the Super Soldier's not quick enough on his feet to avoid the Blade. And EQO deals with Manhattan's mech on the high ground. Now a Discord and Mini Diva is a very easy target to chop up. That's going to be Logic's trying to backstep off of the point. Still, not one tick yet. The first one's finally come up for the fusion. Oh, great jump in. Fraggy knocks back the Mayhem as they try and access the point and kick this one contested. Swoosh found himself on his own in his desperation to get to the point. He wasn't flanked or joined by his teammates. Now it's 1 by 1. Manton comes forward. T-Suited taken down in short shrift, no doubt. Boombox does eat a Helix rocket from Fink, but he's so low. Fraggy gets the job done. And we know the fusion like a scrap. They're like a bit of biffo, Matt. And they got just that. Very fast take.
It's a great attack there from the Philadelphia Fusion. Towards the end, Tvik goes over to the high ground and he starts using that tack visor. Fraggy jumps up top and just forces him back into that left hallway on the upper high ground. And Tvik just sits there for a second because he thinks Fraggy's going to jump down and re-challenge him. Fraggy actually goes back towards the point. Tvik kind of sits behind that wall for like a second or two with the tack visor, comes around, he can only get 1 kill with it, takes out Boombox. At that point, Fraggy jumps right back up into his face, denies him any more damage, and Philadelphia is able to take that point.
Yeah, it was just towards the end, just as the Mayhem looked as if they were going to come back and contest, Matt. Fraggy displacing them with the impact of that rocket jump made it hard for Florida to actually be able to choose who was going to go on the point. I think they wanted to go all together, but in the end, like you said, they had to trickle in one at a time because they were blocked out by an ice wall, shoved around by the Winston.
Well, Fraggy jumps into that, back right area by the spawn because they actually get a call that Zupe is trying to get up top on the high ground as Ana, and EQO had jumped up to the high ground, kind of forced him back down the stairway, and Fraggy and Carpe actually jumped towards that back there and just kind of trapped him inside. So you're able to deal with that Ana. They're not able to provide that healing from that high ground where, maybe he could have been able to keep a few members topped up on the point.
Seeing the Philadelphia Fusion got the serpentine coils around the Mayhem in that previous fight, just choking them out. But we saw Florida being very adept at attacking this point as well. There's every reason to expect that they'll be rather fast on the attack as well. We'll see. The defensive lineup for Philadelphia Fusion should not surprise anyone in the room. Genji Tracer. Obviously Lucio for Neptuno, which was one of his initial go-tos. He was one of the best Lucios in Europe for a long time. Arguably still is. And of course your boy Poco on that diva.
And the Florida Mayhem will run a dive, so this is where they were one of the best teams in Europe. This is the composition that got them there. We're going to see them play it a lot in Stage 2. Probably have much better results than they had in Stage 1.
But that's the expectation, Matt, but we still need to see if it manifests here for the Florida Mayhem. Look at this aggression, speed boost already. They're chasing Philadelphia Fusion, bundling them out here, getting up in their face, and already have a DC here on Poco, but it's actually not too bad for the Fusion. They snap back a little bit like a sapling. Carpe and Fraggy have found their frags. Swoosh, they're trying to stay safe. Neptuno comes bounding forward, but Carpe has been doing some serious work on the clean-up here. That's it, Florida. You're moving with the auntie and uncle and Bel Air.
So 5 players for the Florida Mayhem make it through the choke. They go towards the right-hand side. Philadelphia sends both of their tanks and both of their supports, back to deal with the Florida Mayhem. The issue is Zupe gets caught at the gate. Carpe and EQO just dive right onto him. Everybody else for Philadelphia is able to just survive that push that comes in for the Mayhem. Then the DPS players come back on the flank, take out the remaining members of Florida.
Swoosh already trying to get the high ground position. Echo fancied a little bit of a contest. Knew he couldn't deal with the Winston in a 1-to-1.
They've got Zupe again. They're going to kill Zupe at the beginning here, so he's not making it through this initial choke with the Florida Mayhem.
Or are they?
Philadelphia Fusion are able to call out. Logix is able to take out 2. Now, Fusion are going to have to back up a little bit. The Mayhem will wait to get Zupe off spawn here, get their Zenyatta back in the mix. They know they're going to have at least a 6-on-4 for a limited amount of time.
Yep, Fraggy and Neptuno are really trying to get back on towards the point, but the rest of the Fusion are waiting, and that's why Carpe's not making a big move. He needs to wait for his teammates to join, but EQO's already dealt with Zeberside. Logic's now backing away. He's going to have his recall forced, and there it is. It's out. Carpe pulse bomb into his own recall, gets the D-suit on Manton, and now just to burst him down. Mini Diva, not much to be done here. Elsewhere, of course, Logic's had fallen to the damage from Neptuno after the recall. Carpe got to chill out on the point.
And you see that fight go down, and you're like, well, where's the Winston for the Philadelphia Fusion? Fraggy actually dives all the way through the choke, and he's able to put so much pressure on Zebosai and Zupe that both supports for Florida pretty much get pushed all the way back to their spawn. So there's no support there for the Florida Mayhem in that fight. They have to help, Zupe get in through that choke a little bit on the Zenyatta. He has the Transcendence, Discord is so powerful. You're losing a lot of it in this fight.
Oh, EQO, there we go, just a tickle, just to force out the Transcendence. The back away, hopefully for him, he wouldn't be paying for it with his life, but it's been reciprocated now. 2 Zenyatas using their ultimate abilities, and EQO now still looking for his entry point with this Dragon Blade. For the most part, it's a roiling mess. A big melee happening. Now EQO wants to pull the trigger. He's found very little with the blades thus far, though, but a lot of damage has been dealt to Florida. He does eventually find Tvik. 2 for 1. It's a 3-for-1 now, and it will be the fight win for the Philadelphia Fusion. For a team, Matt, that's so aggressive, they're looking to be very stalwart defenders.
Yeah, they've done a nice job at splitting off some of these players for the Florida Mayhem. Not all able to make it through that choke point. That time, both support ults used for both teams. The Dragon Blade used by the Philadelphia Fusion. It's looking like a very good hold for Philadelphia. We're under a minute to go. Poco with a self-destruct. That's the only ultimate right now on the board for both teams. We'll see Boombox on the defensive end start to build towards that Transcendence as well.
Have you not? Okay, didn't think the Mayhem noticed Carpe there. It does appear that Swoosh did cotton on to the issue. Now, Carpe only gets 84 health on the recall, so he still needs to be careful. He ate an orb there, but it wasn't enough to fell him. Neptuno being down here means the Fusion have to double down a little bit on this defense now.
But look at what they're doing. They've just pushed all the way through the Philadelphia Fusion. They've killed one player. They have Zippe still all the way in the back, so you're denying anything that the Zenyatta could give him. Now they're going to double back to the point. You see they're able to get both supports yet again.
Carpe low on HP, as he has been for much of this fight. Poco being de-seated now, and Carpe just trying to push away. Self-destruct from Poco claims to Vic now, and there's more work to be done. Swoosh barely hits the ground in primal range, and he is removed from the situation. It was Carpe with a final bit of damage. They're going to keep Logic staggered. They're actually more than happy to let him run around a little bit. There's not much Logic can really do on his own, and that's going to be time now into overtime. But the rest of Florida Mayhem don't have the ability to close to get to the point, and EQO just gets some style points, to quote Semler, to finish it off.
That was dominant by the Philadelphia Fusion there in map number 1. EQO and Carpe, so they combine for both the 0 deaths throughout the entire
whole map.
No, 26 elims, 13 final blows for Carpe, 21 elims, 13 final blows for EQO, the DPS players for the Philadelphia Fusion.
Conversely,
dominating map number 1.
Conversely, Tvik only 1 final blow, 7 deaths. It's been a difficult map for him, and the Mayhem need to wake up here on this Saturday morning. Get some breakfast in you. I don't care what it takes, because the Fusion are clearly looking to be a step ahead, Matt. They're very aggressive, you know, they've got a sense of knowing when to come forward, and they play that aggressive defense so well. Map 2, ladies and gentlemen, is around the corner. Strap yourselves in. There's much more to be said and done.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Poco, Philadelphia Fusion. I'm from French, Nîmes.
Poco has been so amazing with his diva bomb.
Personal goal for the Overwatch League Season 1 to become the best diva player in the world.
All right, here comes the Poco self-destruct. He getting kills? Yes, he does find Sleepy with it.
Before the Overwatch League, I went through all the maps and I practiced every spot, every corner, everything, basically.
Poco back again. Poco with 2 more kills on the diva ult.
We missed the preseason, so we didn't have much time on stage. We are working really hard to get on that level.
And then Poco, we talked about his ultimates. Well, his teammates set him up for that one to the 4K.
I'm proud when I do a triple kill or even a quadra. I mean, it's really rewarding.
Oh, Poco! Gotta catch them all, Poco, man.
Yeah, Poco's pulse bombs, the gifts that keep on giving or taking if you're the opposite team. Oh, smile, Gale, it's for you. Great performance on Diva earlier on in that map. We can see that a lot of damage being blocked there, but big damage, about the same amount as Carpe dealt over the course of that map. Diva, much like in stage 1, is actually that hero that's getting often the highest amount of final blows or even the most damage. She's an absolute powerhouse in her current state.
It's funny how like she's just shifted dramatically over the last few months, right? She went from like having a lot of defense matrix,
defensive oriented,
right? Like just coming back, helping the supports a lot. Now she's like
a
main damage dealer to just kind of go on in.
Barrage, fam. That's fine.
Why not?
Now you're in a position where you try and 1v1 a diva as sort of any DPS hero. You're fundamentally at a disadvantage. She's got a bigger health pool. She has more burst potential than a lot of DPSs, and of course, incredible utility. However, with great power comes great responsibility, and also it's tricky to get it right. We have a match here with both teams are actually boasting very, very competent diva players. It's a fun little mini game to watch to see how they balance that aggression, Matt, with protecting their team with defense matrix.
Yeah, I think Manitin has been a bright spot for the Florida Mayhem throughout their season thus far. I just think, you need to get some of those DPS players in great positions, right? I feel like Logix, he puts up decent numbers, but you look like his final blows are kind of low. Like that tells us when we're looking at it, maybe he's just putting a ton of damage into the tanks and going back. You don't have people there to follow it up.
I feel like Logix puts a lot of his personal emphasis on making, effective choices when using Pulse Bomb. Carpe, however, while he will go for like the Pulse Bomb play, quite often he's more interested in that aggressive play, in getting in the head of the back line of the enemy team, in 1v1ing enemy traces. He's far more confrontational, whereas Logix prefers the shock and or fire and brimstone, throw a Pulse Bomb in and get a few kills.
So yeah, Nepal, the most popular map for Orisa here. That's probably, you get a lot of play on Orisa. Actually, on this map, you get a lot of play on all the stages. She's actually quite well on all the stages.
I mean, we did see a lot, of course, of her played in that anti-dive composition, which still has efficacy, which still is a comp that we see, but now with Mercy having being a little bit different, it's not as necessary to go for that approach. But Matt, we're on the rollout here, and the Fusion, very quick to the point.
Yeah, Fusion are going to run triple tank here. They're going to have EQO play Roadhog, and they're going to just try and build up this coalescence so fast. A lot of large HP targets on the point here for the Fusion. It's going to make it difficult for the Mayhem to attack. It's going to be on Tivik to just be able to put down a ton of damage, and then Logix to finish off those kills.
EQO has to be careful. He's actually walking a fine line here, taking a lot of damage. Needs to wait for his take a breather cooldowns, and he doesn't make it. Well, Zeverside caught him from the point. Poco going to be unceremoniously desuited and dealt with. And the Mayhem now come back in with a little bit more flair. The first fight looks stellar from them, and have a look at this. Look at the damage Tivik was able to do in that fight to get him so close to attack visor. You could say much the same for Logix, whereas Carpe is a third of his ultimate percentage thus far. That's a huge difference.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tivik did a nice job just putting down a ton of damage on multiple targets. Then the dive came in for the Mayhem. They're able to finish off a lot of those kills, build up a nice advantage in terms of ultimates. See, Logix already with a Pulse Bomb, Tivik with Attack Visor, immediately a change from the Fusion. EQO goes over to Genji.
Logix looking for the Pulse Bomb, he often is. Doesn't quite connect, but Neptuno's quite low. He needs to bound backwards here. Lucio desperately trying to give himself a little bit more of that healing, but EQO, that's the DC they were looking for, and now it's going to open things up a little bit more for the pressure of the Fusion. Sound Barrier going to help them. Makes a far more robust an approach. You can see Carpe was dodging in and out of that fight. He manages to eventually dispatch Swoosh, but EQO, big performer. Florida, completely blasted from the point.
I do feel a lot of pressure now is going to still fall on to Vic, right? When you play that 76 and there's a dive comp on the other side, there's a lot of different things they can throw at you to make your life very difficult. You know, Genji's such an annoying target that can come at you. Same with, you know, Tracer just coming at you from different angles.
Special delivery! Gets two! That's it! Zuppe and Vic are down, and Carpe from above. Oh dear. The dive bomb is real. Not even any time for the air raid sirens to go off, and that's already fight wrapped up.
The thing with Carpe is he's so consistent game to game that I feel like he's almost like underappreciated, right? Like just how good he is game in and game out. Like, you know, we see like a lot of other guys like pop off for big games every once in a while. Like it just feels like so standard that he has like a big game every time the Fusion play now.
Yeah, and it's easy to understate his moments of brilliance as well because we see them all the time. It's like too much of a good thing. Maybe not such a great thing. Logic, sneaky man. Oh, he gets the one clip and the melee to finish it off, but EQO's out of plans. He responds very quickly. 5v5 now. EQO has a Dragon Blade, but it's not quite high enough in HP to really risk using it. Now, though, it's an option. Gets himself that Mega. Zebo's eating shurikens from across the map at Swoosh, and the rest of the Mayhem collapse on what was left of the Fusion on the point. Force them off. Poco's down. Tvik with a tactical visor, but he'd hate to have to use it right now. The Fusion want to hold on as long as they can. Get some stall.
Well, they're going to use their Transcendence plus Blade here and try and take the point right back. See EQO uses his dash now, trying to chase Tvik down. Finally gets him.
Hey, it was lucky actually to get out alive. Swoosh was trying to chase him down. Swoosh obviously peeled off the target eventually, but Logix has found Fraggy. This fight's still going, ladies and gentlemen. Now the Mayhem are back to the point, and they're mad. Let's see what they can do. They're actually in control. They flipped it before the fight, so this actually hurts the Fusion. They allow the Mayhem to take the point before they engage, and then they even lose the fight, so they lost, you know, twice the amount of percentage they otherwise would have.
Yeah, they had Carpe and EQO just, you know, hold on to the point for a little bit. They backed off once Boombox came back with Fraggy and they had the Transcendence. That's when the Mayhem flipped the point back in their favor. They're never able to get it back, and they use a ton of ultimates. They'll probably just have Sound Barrier here for this next fight, and EQO may build up a Dragon Blade depending on how long it goes, but you're going to have both support ults on the side of the Florida Mayhem here to combat anything that Philly throws at them.
Yeah. Oh, we have a Transcendence being used here by Zuppe. Sound Barrier via the Fusion. Boombox has his Transcendence as well. Oh, the support ultimates are going to be used in this fight. But for the time being, the Mayhem have pole position. They're up on this point, looking comfortable. Fraggy getting blown up by a pulse bomb here, and you can see Zeverside just trying to control the outsides, put people back as they try and flank in. But EQO, he's waiting. He's got a Dragon Blade. He knows how to use it. Tvik being down is going to make this job that much easier. Also, Swoosh being so low on HP means that EQO just needs a swift strike to get the job done. One more Shuriken would have dealt with Zeverside, but he's long since gotten out of the fight.
That's huge that they're able to hold on to that Dragon Blade there, and it's a great call. He's just kind of hanging out by the Mega Health Pack for a while, EQO, just putting down some damage. Probably just waiting to see they get a call from a team that's going to be huge. I mean, Manatin now, they're going to have to wait a few seconds. They may not get it back for this next fight. They have no support ults to deal with this, but EQO falls.
That could be the opening they're looking for here. Poco's on the point. Denny's hands a bit dirty, and Swoosh is taking a heck of a lot of damage because Carpe was there. Poco and Carpe working the point together. Manatin attempts to get there with the Doom Fist. But it's going to take more than gimmicks to shut down the Fusion once they have a stranglehold on things. It's 1-0 here on Nepal.
The difference just comes down to the timing of support ults there. You know, that it was the Florida Mayhem with both. They used their Sound Barrier. They quickly followed it up by the Transcendence. The Fusion used their Sound Barrier. They wait just an extra second or two to use that Transcendence. Still keep everybody up for just a little bit longer. See your Carpe at the end.
That's huge.
Just able to just burn through players so fast.
Again, the stagger on Manatin just pretty much cost the round right then and there for the Mayhem. They really need that Diva, especially to mitigate Carpe's presence. And then you see what happens when there's no Diva. Carpe just goes ham, 3 kills. Backing up Poco. Good teamwork here for the Fusion, looking coordinated, sharp. Still one more round to get done here, and the Mayhem have been giving him some trouble. Now we're headed into Sanctum. We have an Orisa for Fraggy.
See if he can get any pots on the side of the map. That's usually what we see from Orisa here, just able to just hold people in.
We like a couple of those Pog Champagne team pools.
Yeah.
Mondana's Gold, etc., etc. Insert your memes here.
So, you know, they'll have EQO play 76. It's kind of like a little bit of an advantage of what they get with him in the lineup over Shadowburn. Shadowburn, one of the best Genjis in the world. You know, his Pharah is really good. EQO can play the hit scan as well, right? So it doesn't force Carpe to switch off of that Tracer role he's so good at.
That's such a high value res here, bringing the Mercy in. The Mayhem don't have one. Neptuno gets Fraggy back, so that's a good 500 HP worth of hero back on the field. Sama, of course, makes a big difference in these fights. A note here. The Fusion didn't really commit heavily to that point. They actually played off around the side for the most part. A lot of that being centered around EQO, who's the pivot point here. for the Fusion. They don't have to commit heavily. They still get that fight won. Mercy definitely helping with that quick res in a pinch.
Well, with Fraggy playing Orisa there on that first point, they were able to just put the shield down. EQO was able to put down a ton of damage with Boombox providing some with those Discord orbs. To start this next fight, you'll see Valkyrie used here by the Philadelphia Fusion. It's going to force out the Transcendence from the Florida Mayhem.
This is an important play though. Carpe with a pulse bomb, but he has a chance to jump in on towards Tvik. Oh no, Bardic Field drop down. Tvik sends him packing. Nice turnaround. But the Florida Mayhem are no closer at this stage to retaking the point. That's kind of the issue here. They're fighting up around the side. Zebasai again doubles down as he often does. EQO felt foul. The Sonic Blaster is booped into oblivion. Bad case of tinnitus as it was yesterday. And now the Fusion still retain control here. The Mayhem, for all the fighting, for all the bluff and blunder, man, they haven't captured the objective.
Yeah, they're going to use a sound barrier and try and engage here. It's going to be Carpe who gets onto the point, just trying to stall us out for the Fusion. Another Mercy res comes in here for the Fusion as well. You bring Fraggy up into the fight. The Mayhem, though, they flip the point in their favor.
Yeah, Fraggy being resurrected up there, but getting taken down by a pulse bomb almost immediately after. Logix was saving that one just for him. And now the Fusion, full-scale retreat. They're being forced out here at the main complex. And the Mayhem have a chance at least to set up, erect some fortifications, if you will. Try and make good use of that left-hand side as a starting point for those dives. You can see Fraggy's waiting around the corner here with the rest of his team. See if the tickle fight with the Winston playing around the corners will happen.
Yeah, and Logix is doing a much better job on this map. He's able to take Boombox out before anything can even happen. That'll get rezzed up there by Neptuno. It'll give an opportunity, though, for the Mayhem to come right in, but the Logic's doing a much better job of following up the damage of Tvik. Right now, Tvik, with 15 limbs, you see Logic's 20 limbs, 10 final blows. So doing a nice job finishing off all that damage that Tvik's putting down.
That Mercy res was quite big, getting a Fusion back up to a full roster, but the Transcendence now being committed to the fight here for Zorpe, and Logic's been looking for a target. Oh, he almost gets burst completely down. EQO with a tactical visor. No one can really afford to pick their head out of the hiding holes, and Carpe punishes people who group up inside. It's a hammer and anvil. EQO can just sit back, and this is what he does in this round. 76, comfortable. Just getting these long-range hit-scan damage down, and Mayhem can't really access him right now.
And Valkyrie provides so much healing there for the Philadelphia Fusion, and you get a res on the Poco. Looks like the Philadelphia Fusion trying to swing this one back in their favor. It'll be attack visor here from Tvik. He's able to get one, forces Carpe out.
Risky.
You're going to get Carpe as well. Tvik gets two there.
I feel like Carpe was trying to quickly cap the point for the Fusion very, very briefly, so they weren't going to give away that extra percentage. But again, he probably didn't know how long was left on the attack visor. He misjudged it. The Fusion get it back regardless. And you can see this kind of feels like one long fight, ladies and gentlemen. It's not really broken up or segmented. It's because these two teams know even if they lose a fight, they get a couple kills, they can keep trying to bring the pressure back on, create local man advantages, even if globally you're at like a 4v6.
Well, it's a great point for Tracer to just try and contest, right? You can just dart into that little underpass underneath the point. You can just come on back. You can get your recall back as well. EQO takes Logix out at the beginning, so the Mayhem will have to go all the way back. They'll retreat, wait. Boombox getting close to another Transcendence. Neptuno switches off of Mercy. They'll go with Lucio here, so probably going to try and capitalize on some of these picks they get early, be a little bit more aggressive.
Environmental kill potential is also big. Cannot be disregarded on a map like this one, but that's the sound barrier here. The Mayhem had a Lucio a lot earlier than the Fusion, and so they're going to have themselves the sound barrier. Fraggy fences himself some alone time here with the backline. Tvik now is going to be the target of his scrutiny, and there's nothing he can do. Juggled up against the wall. He drops down. Just inexorable pressure from the Fusion. Yes, Swoosh manages to knock EQO off the edge of the map. It's Zebasai found Boombox there. 2 environmental kills. There may not be enough even still at this stage. It's just Swoosh up on the point there over time. Or you can see it, ladies and gentlemen, it's now desperate situations for Florida Mayhem. Dire straits. Tvik needs to throw himself at this point. Logix is there, keeping it ticking along. And now the trend's in. Oh, no! Oh, that was perfect from Pogo. Redirecting the transcending Zenyatta and knocking Tvik off the map. The point was not to try and necessarily kill that Zenyatta, but that extra second that it took for him to touch the point gave the round to the Fusion. That's some cerebral play right there, Matt.
Yeah, it's beautiful positioning there from Poco. Really heads-up play there in the final seconds to knock those players out of position. The Philadelphia Fusion looking real good here in their second match of Stage 2.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. It's halftime in the Blizzard Arena, and you see the scoreboard. It is 2-0 in favor of the Philadelphia Fusion. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Puckett, your desk host, and I've got the breadcrumbs with me once again. This is Bren. This is Crumbs, not breadcrumbs. Twitch chat. All right, let's jump into this. Game number 1 was Hanamura, and we talked about the struggles from Florida in the past. They lost to New York Excel on this map. Meanwhile, Philadelphia was able to pick up a win on this map when they played against Boston. Philadelphia definitely the stronger team in this game, but it wasn't the exact same gameplay that we expected to see from this squad. They're always evolving, Crumb.
Yeah, Philadelphia is looking very composed this time around. They're being very calculated with the way that they use their ultimates. We even saw a stat there popping up that said that EQO holds his blade even longer than Shadowburn, which is incredible. And we're going to get to see exactly how this played out. So this is the snowball onto point B of Hanamura. And he's had blade the entire time, so he's just chilling. He's waiting it out, and you get to see how many ultimates go by first before he decides to unsheath.
Yeah, in general, this is a question that was like I had in my mind is why would you run the EQO over Shadowburn most of the time? Because Shadowburn is known as this world-renowned Genji player. And I haven't really received the answer until now. Really, looking at the play and how Philadelphia are going about these team fights is super surgical in terms of that they are very patient in terms of when they engage, and it feels like every single member of Philadelphia Fusion seems to have this like invisible leash like attached to each individual player. They're not allowed to really go too far out of their zone, and they don't really allow themselves to overextend too much like other teams would.
That seemed to be an issue in the past. We were watching them in stage 1. Yes, their dives were good at times. Other times you see Fraggy on one side of the map, and then the DPS split up in 2 other places on the map. Today, it seems like you said, they're all running together as a unit. Is that a difference in the coaching, or is that just a byproduct of the new meta with Lucio in the game?
It's a mixture of both, honestly. It could be, because the coaching staff themselves, I know they're all very capable lads, you know, back at the Philadelphia house. But also, you know, I was speaking to the Philadelphia guys in the makeup room before this was going on, and they said we've been working on just our own individual play and our team play. That's the most important factor, is the fact that they're just only focusing on their own team play, not really preparing for other teams. They just want to get their gameplay down to really just a surgical level, and that's definitely shown.
I actually think the Lucio meta impacts this a lot more than you think. Not because you're playing Lucio, but because Lucio literally has a circle indicator around an area that you have to stick to. So if you're thinking about Philly as a team that is extending beyond that, if you have a leash, you literally have a zone that says, hey, you got to come back into the Lucio zone, which is a pretty nice area to be in if you're trying to play and coordinate any dives together. So I think that that indicator is helping out a lot of teams and making them look more cohesive. I mean, even the Shanghai Dragons are running compositions that they look sick on with the Lucio.
And if you heard Mr. X say it during the cast, it was all about the DPS from Philly. They had so many kills, basically no deaths across the game 1, but they get a lot of credit for the kills, but it's a team work that we're seeing from this Philadelphia squad. It's a team push, a team dive. Walk us through some of their defenses. Why was Florida held out without a single point on Hanamura?
This is honestly tasty. I was taking a look at the map view whilst this game was going on, and it's fantastic. And just notice as well, Zupe in the back lines constantly gets split up from the rest of Florida Mayhem. And Philadelphia Fusion, this entire game, were exploiting this fact. And I mean, Zupe being there is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the style that Florida are trying to play, where Zupe will sit at the choke point, hand out the Discord orbs, but every single time Philadelphia Fusion spotted the weakness, which was that one individual player can't really defend himself, and they just let Fraggy loose, or let EQO loose, right? And they just let him just jump onto him, and immediately they turn the fight into a 6v5 scenario. So regardless of the fact that Florida managed to get onto the point and they get the better positioning, they're going to be working at a disadvantage in the following team fight.
Well, so game plan, kill Zenyatta, he's defenseless. He really has no way of getting out. Somebody's touching him, you get one clip by Tracer, Winston can do the same. You really just need your team to help you out.
Let's talk about the second map, guys, as we wrap up halftime. This one, it's control, so it's all about that mechanical skill. A lot of teamwork always in Overwatch, but really the individuals able to shine in this game mode in particular. Who was shining for you guys early on?
So you want to go Carpe?
Not shining? When is this guy
all
just
the time.
not popping? It's ridiculous how good he is. We were just saying, you know, if we ever play against a Carpe Smurf on ladder, I'd just uninstall at this point because there's nothing you can do. This guy was just not dying, playing with the edges of his life constantly. And look at him, just targeting Zenyatta. Yeah. I play Zenyatta. This is why I don't want to play against this.
In my mind, he is the boy wonder, right, of Overwatch right now. This guy, Carpe is ridiculous in terms of his tracking raw mechanical skill. But if we're going to go over a little bit and not talk about the DPS, I'm actually been very impressed with Fraggy. Fraggy is a man who was mainly known for his Reinhardt gameplay, right? He was never really known for his Winston coming into this. He's been practicing it a lot more, and now it's almost at a level where he's more comfortable on Winston than he is on Reinhardt. And I mean, the guy has said it to me personally. He said he's more comfortable on his Winston now than he is on his Reinhardt. And I mean, this is coming from the man who most people would say is the best Reinhardt in Europe. So I mean, he's a scary tank player at this point. Saying why? Oh, what are you saying about Europe, bro? What are you saying? What are you saying?
All right, so we're going to keep our eyes on Fraggy. Poco also doing a great job on the tanks, but I want everyone at home, keep your eyes on the Tracer. If you look at the numbers here from our first 2 games, Carpe is winning the Tracer war. Look at the final blows, and of course, the deaths in this one. Carpe staying up all the time on game 1, only 5 deaths across his first 2, and he's won 6 of their 6 fights in a one-on-one Tracer duel.
6-0 when you're dueling Tracers is pretty bad. Like you're gonna be thrown on tilt at this point. Like you really need to compose yourself.
To give Logic some credit, I was watching it, and the Florida, the style they're playing is very much Logic's on his own. So he's not being supported too much. That is part of the reason why we're seeing such a big discrepancy. It's not that he's completely dominating him in the 1v1s, because Carpe usually has backup. That's the reason you're seeing that Carpe's performing a little bit better. So I mean, Florida, they could still turn this one around if they fix the minor mistakes.
Also, real quick, before the break, shout out to Captain Planet. He was in my ear. He said, no, Carpe's getting help. So it's not just the 1v1s. Look out. How much help does Logix get in the second half? They need him to get the kills if they're going to get back in this series. Right now, it's all Fusion. We'll find out, can they close it out? Hollywood is coming up next.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places.
The Philadelphia Fusion, they are on a rampage right now. And Carpe, EQO, Those guys, they are amazing. And somewhere in the building, I imagine Shadowburn is smiling. Haha, just kidding. We know Shadowburn doesn't really smile unless there's a cute puppy near him. Anyways, the Philadelphia Fusion, they're up 2-0, but the Florida Mayhem, they are super capable of pulling off that reverse sweep. So let's go ahead and get into some second half action and kick it over to our casters, Uber and Mr. X.
Rampage is correct, I think. Safe to say, Matt, like, the Fusion looking very, very fast. The addition of EQO, we've already seen him once this week. We were impressed. Now we know it wasn't just a flash in the plan. It wasn't a pan, sorry. It wasn't just a fluke. He's looking very good. And he looks stylistically very different to Shadowburn.
Yeah, it just seems like he's just way more aggressive. Like, when these dives come on through, he's right in the mix. You know, Shadowburn, fantastic NG, one of the best in the world. You know, always seems to come up clutch with those blades. You know, it just seems like EQO is just diving with this team a little bit more. It seems like the synergy is just a little bit better on the side with the Mayhem, though. It seems like they're a little bit out of sorts.
Yeah, and it's definitely a big indicator of Logix for that entire map is unable to score a final blow on Carpe, and Carpe, with the help of his teammates, of course, as always is the case, you know, focuses down Logix. It makes you wonder, what's Logix's priority? Is he trying to burst down tanks? Because he often has about the same, if not more damage than Carpe, but always sort of less final blows in a lot of these rounds. It's a complicated process to try and dig through because there's a lot of things that could be factoring in, but we do often watch Logix say he's more happy just, like I said at the start of the map, charging pulse bombs, shooting tanks, and then blowing them up.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's kind of like the opposite, right? Like, he kind of puts all the damage on the tanks, and like they want Tvik to finish it off at range of 76, or like it should be kind of reversed, right? Where Tvik's putting down all this damage, and then Logic's finishing it off.
Well, halftime is done, and now it's time to head into Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Make some noise, the Mayhem on the ropes here. But we're better than Hollywood to stage an epic comeback, especially when you're down in the dumps. Anyone can make it in this city, so I've heard.
And it's an odd showing from the Mayhem in our first two maps, considering how good they played New York the other day. They were very good against NYXL. I think it just kind of speaks to how strong Philly is.
Yeah, I feel like a transitive property anecdote is coming on, perhaps, but I look at the Fusion played differently, and it definitely, I feel like they had watched Mayhem's game this series. You know, prior, they had a very good understanding of how they were operating, especially, like you said,
Hanamura. Yeah, Hanamura, the Florida Mayhem, they were able to leave Zippe by that mega health pack on offense, and he was just able to just put down damage against NYXL. This time, Philadelphia knew exactly that was coming. They were able to take advantage of it. Philadelphia, no surprises. Genji Tracer, Winston D.Va. Boombox will play Moira, so a little bit of a change here. But Moira very good on this first point of the map. You're able to just get right through this choke, use her orbs to very good effect.
There's no reason, though, for Boombox not to expect Manitin to be piloting D.Va, so he will be playing differently around his biotic orbs, trying to use them more locally instead of sending a damaging orb right into the enemy team. Looks like they might have actually caught Tvik out in his own, though, man. Oh, Boombox, biotic grasp, gets him low. And now the Fusion have got to be careful because they put themselves in a small corridor against the Junkrat.
Yeah, there's no Winston on the side of the Florida Mayhem, so Swoosh is playing Roadhog here. Typically, you would see Manitin play Roadhog, but they want to keep Manitin on that D.Va roll. You see they push Florida Mayhem all the way back to the cafe. That'll be one tick. A lot of progress going here over to Philly.
But the Mayhem are being put on a house arrest. They can't even get out of the cafe at this stage. Echo, the man at the door, reflecting the damage back and then joining up on that high ground. He wants to go over, very roundabout way, but he's hunting Tvik. And Echo dive bombs him. Still around, of course, but that's big. Logic's falling straight after, and Echo, or EQO, should I say, making it very, very hard. Zebasai eats a melee attack. That's a huge fight for EQO. Oh, give him some twinings after that one. Why not? That was impressive.
It's just a really odd fight in terms of that Philadelphia is able to get 2 ticks before anybody drops, really, on both sides. It seems like Florida was really playing around Tvik, getting that rip tire. He went all the way to the back, was able to use it. He gets 1 kill, but it kind of takes all that Junkrat damage during that out of the fight. And they were the Philadelphia Fusion able to pick up 2 kills during that. They don't really get a ton out of it. So now you'll have both support ults come online for the Florida Mayhem. Tvik will switch over to Genji here. It's going to be the nano boost that leads things off, though, on the Swoosh.
Yeah, Fusion trying to get aggressive here. Swoosh wants to sit back on that payload a little bit more, but he was essentially on his own. Despite being nano boost, he'd taken so much damage that he had to play passively anyway. Zebasai, an attempt of rescue here, surely for Zupe. But guess what? Zupe goes to Zebasai with a healing, and Logix doesn't benefit from it anymore. Now the Dragon Blade coming in. EQO, he's going big. Swoosh cuts him down. It was a running riot. Someone finally managed to stop him, but guess what? When EQO goes down, Carpe steps up. Unbelievable. These DPSs on the Fusion are so frightening.
And they used the Transcendence to try and save their Ana, did the Florida Mayhem. And by the time they went there, it was like exactly what Philadelphia wanted. They got both support ults, then EQO can use his Dragon Blade, just cut right on through. The payload is pretty much moved uncontested here, getting very close to taking point B. Carpe with a pulse bomb.
Oh, he
nailed
nailed
it
it
on the Manitou.
Yep, just as Manitou was being ejected from his mech load, no less. That is massive. Even though there was a self-destruct that got off, it doesn't really matter. No one was really there to see it. Carpe picks up Zephyr in the air, and Zupe knows he's endangered species right now. He will fall. Poco, a big fight for him, and every individual on this roster for Philadelphia is standing up, and the Florida Mayhem aren't doing a great job of finding their footing, and now they're split spawned as well. This is going to hurt. They're going to get farmed for ultimate percentage here, no doubt.
And they're not able to build up anything towards their own ults. I mean, Tvik will have Dragon Blade for this next fight, but you have Transcendence on the other side for the Philadelphia Fusion. You also have Primal Rage for the Florida Mayhem. Maybe Swoosh can get in there and force out that Transcendence before Tvik uses that Dragon Blade. Get some good use of it. If you don't get a good use of the Dragon Blade, right, and they're able to use that Transcendence to counter it, then you're looking at a Sound Barrier plus your own Dragon Blade coming in for the Philadelphia Fusion with a good opportunity to close out this map with a really good time.
Tvik needs to stem the bleeding somehow, and ironically, he'll probably have to do so by pulling out the Dragon Blade. Zupe assists, headshot, EQO is down. He was very deep there in Mayhem territory, so now they dealt with him, they can look for more. Boombox, the time out there on that Transcendence, but he's actually managing to keep a distance from Tvik. Eventually, he's taken down, but it wasn't by the Ninja Man himself. No, it was Madsen. Now Tvik to climb up, benefiting from that Harmony Orb, just trying to stay out of the fight just enough to get himself back in there. And that may have been an attempt to zone there from Poco to force a disengage from the Mayhem, and it did work.
Well, you see the payload moving just a little bit. Now the Philadelphia Fusion have an opportunity to do exactly what Florida Mayhem just did to them. They can use that Sound Barrier. They're going to use this, try and force out the Transcendence, what they do here. You see EQO holding onto this blade, waiting until the effects of that Transcendence wear off.
So now we'll see who did it better, the Fusion or the Mayhem. EQO more than happy to try and duel it out there with Tvik, but the man is determined here to shut down this one individual player on your screen. Big backsteps here for EQO. Again, when there's a Zenyatta, when you know there's a Zenyatta charging those orbs of destruction, Genji Reflect can be quite fortuitous.
You do have the Florida Mayhem build up towards their Sound Barrier, so you'll have at least that support ult in this next fight. Fraggy and EQO trying to go on a little bit of a flank there. They get spotted by Manitou. You see the payload just being contested and moved here.
Oh, that might be it.
On to Tvik. Now let's see the push come on through.
I tell you what, he's a young, plucky man, EQO. More than happy to disrespect his opponents now. Self-destruct. Oh, we thought he'd get away from that one.
Okay.
They say, Matt, pride comes before a fall. Perhaps that's what we saw there. Either way, EQO succumbs to the self-destruct. And the Fusion might have to go back to the drawing board. However, Swoosh, it's a little bit overzealous there and is found. Fraggy's more than happy to actually keep the battle lines quite extended into Mayhem territory.
Well, you still have a lot of time here for the Philadelphia Fusion. You're going to have both support ults coming back. Tvik with a Dragon Blade, though, cuts through Neptuno. They're going to use their Transcendence and push on in. So the Florida Mayhem will get a fight win here, Mitch. But now the Fusion will have an opportunity with both support ults and their Dragon Blade to come on this next attack and close the map out.
Oh, Tvik, be careful. You may have bitten up more than you can chew here, son. Oh, no. It's danger territory. EQO is saving that Dragon Blade. He didn't even use one. When Tvik can use two, and yes, it looks like it's time to start the fight. Now, Sound Barrier, the doors are open, and the Fusion are looking to take advantage of the man deficit. The disadvantage of the Mayhem have put themselves in there. Tvik going for a little bit too much, and now it's going to come back to bite him in the rear. Dragon Blade expires. Now Pomerate Winston over on the point, but Swoosh is taken down despite his inflated health pool. Now the chase on the Zephyr side. An easy dispatch. Madison desuited. Pulse Bomb dropped on him, and now will be taken down very quickly. And EQO is all about this fight. Boombox falls in the backline, but Carpe once again goes and deals with the problem with Logix. There it is, the Fusion. Get the job done. Gotta be annoyed if you're Tvik. Yeah. There was no need to push that aggressively. None at all.
Yeah, when he dies in that position, you give obviously the man advantage to the Philadelphia Fusion, and at that time they already had such a big advantage in terms of ultimates. They had both support ultimates and Dragon Blade. Their Dragon Blade, they only get one with it. Carpe still has a pulse bomb that moment in time. You just gave them a huge advantage there towards the end, where they were so close to finishing the map out already.
EQO is sat on that Dragon Blade for 2 of Tvik's uses. So again, that would be interesting to see how that develops over the season. Are we seeing another player that sort of likes to sit back and wait for the prime opportunity? Because EQO definitely found it towards that last fight, man. Very good time.
And we saw the stats with the Tracer players during the break and halftime. Right now, Carpe is 19 limbs, 1 death, 10 final blows. You have Logix on the other side, 6 limbs, 1 final blow, 4 deaths. So Carpe is still getting the better of this Tracer battle.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all here. Florida Mayhem's DPS players are getting trashed in this matchup. It seems as if the Philadelphia Fusion are playing far more effectively around them.
There we go. That's an effective way to use that.
Yeah. You know what? When the cooldown comes down, I think you can even use more. Yeah.
I love how everybody gets so excited over like stuff like that, the Symmetra in the spawn. It's like
the old Melty Esports team, the first professional Overwatch team, to be fair, they formed before the closed beta even came out, had a trick where they would just dance around as Torbjorns.
He's just like barreling his. What
Sure.
is?
I think he's trying to.
What are the Fusion doing?
But they just don't care. They're flexing.
Neptuno is gaining a sight line here.
Oh, yeah, okay. Don't try and make this legitimate, man.
It's legit. It's legit.
He's getting a sight line, and
yeah, he's
that's
getting
definitely
an advantage
true.
there.
That's not true. No. Although somewhere in the building, Dak is smiling. My man. All right. Mayhem on the attacking side now. They must come up with something a little bit special for us here to keep themselves alive in this series. It'll be another disappointing loss. It'll be their 11th. Not the Mayhem. All their fans will be wanting, but now it's time to start the fight. Speed boost already. EQO being leapt upon. Beset on all sides. Tries to take a breather, but there might just be too much damage for him to deal with in the Riz. Logix picks him up. However, in the process, EQO had got enough damage on the Manaton's mech to remove him from it. Now the Mayhem take a breather, literally. Sitting in that back corner there. Poker now as well, getting a bit chunked down. He's low, he's going to be removed, but Frankie was there to remove Zeberside. Spick now, a lot of damage there that he couldn't block. He will fall, and Mayhem now just going to get corralled. They're going to get sent off to the abattoir, Matt. It's a bit of a grisly way of putting it, but that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, and going into that back corner, it actually provides Boombox. A really good opportunity to get a ton of value out of Moira, right? A lot of damage or healing he can provide with those orbs. Then also just being able to heal multiple targets in that close area. He's able to build up Coalescence right away. Neptuno getting very close to a sound barrier. See if Carpe can hit another great pulse bomb, just waiting for the supports to come on through.
Zeberside might be his prime target, or maybe more than one. Oh, hello! Super! Always getting left behind by the Florida Mayhem. His passive positioning can cause him to be easily zoned out from the rest of his team. Oh, that's wishful thinking, Carpe. Goes for the long shot, doesn't connect it, but the rest of his team are doing a good job over on the point there. It looks like the Fusion have this job well in hand.
He doesn't kill either of those supports, but the fact that Florida, they just dive everybody on into that back corner again on the EQO, but then there's no support for Florida because they're trying to deal with Carpe at the front. So
he's just driving a wedge in between the back line of Florida and their front
line.
line.
But it's the same thing that happened on Hanamura. They kept getting caught out, the supports from Florida. They were not actually
Why does this happen when they have a speed boost here on their Lucio?
It just seems like they like to keep Zupe a little bit at range where he can just put down a lot of just free damage.
True Ana player. He's playing Zenyatta maybe like Ana. That might be one reason. We'll have to ask him after. Because it happens a lot. It's something you can identify easily. Sound barrier now here for Florida Mayhem. They need to make good use of this one. So far, not so bad. Micro Rockets claim EQO. And the Transcender's over the point here just to make it a little bit safer for the Mayhem to get aggressive. Poco gets Pulse Bomb. D-suited now. Self-destruct to try and get his mech back. It's going to be Frank with a Primal Rage out the back of the point just to knock the Florida Mayhem around a little bit more. And Carpe's getting in and around it. Boombox with the Coalescence found Zeberside in the meantime. And there's another Pulse Bomb here for Carpe, ready and waiting to go. It might be for Manaton. He doesn't even get back in his mech. Not even really allowed to play the game if Carpe has his say. Tvik sheepishly backpedaling there with the reflex. Carpe lets him live for now.
And that's a tough fight lost there for the Florida Mayhem because you used both your support ults and you actually got a much better sound barrier out of Zeberside than you did on the opposite side. Neptuno uses his sound barrier, only obviously connects with himself. He gets Boombox as well, so you were not able to get any of those big tanks with the sound barrier or Carpe. Get a really good use out of it from Zeberside early, just not able to capitalize. They do have a Dragon Blade though here with Tvik, no support ult on the side of the Philadelphia Fusion. EQO could drive him back though with the whole hog.
He's going to go for the Ritz, he's going to make the gambit. It's a 1-for-1 trade so far, but Logix has already been taken down again by Carpe. The anti-Tracer player really coming into his own in this match. And Tvik comes up devastatingly short there with the Dragon Blade, finds very little for it. And guess who now has a chance just to roam around? Carpe seizing space and kills as he goes through. Self-destruct. Manaton was no way he was going to get away from that one. And Swooshdown's going to get blocked out. Frankie's not going to let him out. He's just going to sit there with 1 HP, get staggered. He actually does fall. Frankie actually is down as well. Swoosh, sorry, being corralled in, and this is it. 10 seconds left.
They can get pretty aggressive here, though. You have a whole hog to knock them back, and you have both your support ults here. They're going to fall back to the point as the push starts to come in.
Now, EQO go take a breather now. Time for the whole hog just to push back the Florida Mayhem here. It's a lot of aggression. It's a lot of speed here for Florida. They pressure forward. They know they need to go for this one now, but EQO gets stuck. Another take a breather. Somehow this man is still alive. Chain hook cooldown is available now. He's looking for his next target. It might be Logix. He doesn't connect the hook, but he finds him with a headshot. Cleans him up with a scrap gun at point blank range. There's no way you're coming back from that one. Swoosh is his next quarry, and that's going to be it. The Fusion will take the series at 3-0 with one match to play. My God, they look good doing it.
And, you know, you mentioned the DPS players for the Florida Mayhem. I really think it's just they need to help the supports out a little bit more. Every time we were on with Carpe, you saw he was able to just get 3 damage on both of these supports. Carpe finishes 35 limbs, 17 final blows, 1 death, an insane game for the Philadelphia Fusion DPS star.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. And by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League.
Focus up, guys. Focus up.
We have the best players. We have the best fans.
Going into game. Going to 3. On 3.
We wanted to make sure that all the best players in the world were in the league, regardless of where they're from. You're really starting to see everybody really wants to up their game.
3, 2, 1, and live.
Welcome to the party. many stars on this lineup.
And this is where we see the high-quality Overwatch, everybody.
Enough of the fun and games. It's time to get the job done. It's been strength to strength for the Philadelphia Fusion so far in Stage 2. I mean, what an opening they had, of course, earlier on in the week, and now they transition into this one, looking like we might be on the fast track to another 4-0 here. Where do the Mayhem come back into this
It's
series?
just really weird to watch this Florida Mayhem team play today because they look so coordinated against NYXL the other day, and then today they just look all out of sorts, right? I mean, we see the support players just trying to help each other out, but then the rest of the team's diving in. They're obviously not able to get healed. You know, you're not really kind of getting a ton of value out of any of your ultimates in a way. It's just looking really odd for the Florida Mayhem, but I think it's also a credit to Philadelphia how good they've been today.
Absolutely. I mean, from start to finish already, especially in this match and to where we are now. And I really want to see the Mayhem sort of find their groove, or at least find their approach in this series. We're seeing a couple different looks out from them, different compositions here. We're seeing the Roadhog being thrown in the mix a little bit more here. You know, we're seeing, but for me, it's the role players, or the players that, you know, like our Logixes of the world here for the Mayhem, who's having a lot of problems dealing with Carpe. Carpe, he can smell or taste that blood in the water, and I can see he's making a beeline for Logix in a lot of these fights. It's really hard as a Tracer who doesn't like to be aggressive against enemy Tracers to constantly be dived by the enemy Tracer.
Yeah, and it's also hard when you have Zupe who wants to play a little bit more passive, like you said, and then everybody else kind of go in, and then you don't really have anybody there to help him out. You know, maybe you have Logix kind of, you know, run around with Zupe, right? You know, kind of ward off the enemy Tracer or whoever else dives him, because right now you're putting that responsibility on Zebo's side, but like we said, then you're not getting really any of the healing coming down on the pointer. You're not getting a lot of value out of your Discords, and is Zupe able to put damage down from range because he's so busy trying to defend himself.
Well, it's difficult as well with Zebasai playing a lot of these roles. He is playing the Zenyatta on the attacking side of Hollywood, right? And what you're normally going to see is he'll try and assist that dive that the Mayhem are trying to go for. Yeah. And quite often Zebasai speeds off with the rest of the team and he sort of sits back. We talked about this. He kind of gets left out on his own. But here's one man who I think's been having a huge impact over the game. 36 eliminations, 11 final blows, one singular death for Poker.
It's a very good game from Poco, and you know, it's just when your team is rolling like that, your stats are going to look obviously much better than the opposing team. But I think you've really seen him and Fraggy, you know, towards the later half of Stage 1, right? They try to put Hoppa in the mix, and then we're like, where's Poco? Why isn't Poco back in? I think you've really seen them start to, you know, lock down a great roster, you know, a 6-person unit who's going to play most of the time.
So as you can see here as well, slight technical delay on the side of the Philadelphia Fusion. Just a couple of things to be dealt with now. At least we can sort of relay that information to you. That's why we are in Overtalk at the moment. You know, it's so funny though. Like I remember like hearing the devs talking about it, and I feel like, no offense to Brent, I think he makes a good point, but like the narrative of like Fraggy not being a Winston player, or it's not what he's, I'm misquoting him, like sort of being a Reinhardt player and then struggling with the transition. I really feel like that the end of, you know, Fraggy's struggles on Winston kind of ended like at least a couple months ago. I feel like that he's really hit his stride in that role. He's looking comfortable now in that, or in understanding his ins and outs, because the best Winston players are very good at riding that very, very narrow line between too aggressive and too passive.
I do feel like playing Winston in Stage 1 was a little bit odd for a lot of players.
How so?
You know, just in terms of you're going in and you're just trying to put down damage. Maybe you get res. Maybe the other Mercy, you know, is able to res the other team's Winston. Like, it was trying to like buy time and space for other players to make plays, where now you can actually see, like, you know, some of the top tanks really make a difference.
Okay, you can actually have an impact because of the amount of times you see that Winston's diving in, they've found a Zenyatta, they're going in, and Mercy's damage just completely, you know, like you've got a Mercy pocket in the Zenyatta, which is a very common approach. Obviously, look at New York, look at Jonak, and so many of the moments where he was making some big frags here. But big shout out as well. We've got some amazing fan bases around the States and around the world, and in fact in the Florida Mayhem watch party is kicking off a little bit. What's the wings, awesome. Mac? You hungry?
Yeah, I actually saw this on Twitter. It's pretty awesome that everybody gets together, watches these games just all over. Like, so many different teams have the watch parties. It's awesome. I need to make my way out. It'd be kind of difficult to do.
I can't wait till we go on the road with this, you know. As time goes on, you know, that's the plan, right? No, Big Daddy Nans, you know, on the golden toilet seat sort of said, we're going to get out there, you know. I can't wait to hang out with some of these fans as well and really give that appreciation of just how much people get behind these teams. But we're going to be jumping in, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for bearing with us. Gibraltar, is going to be the next map in this series. And fun fact for you, this team, or like at least half of the Florida Mayhem team, were actually the first team to play a triple DPS with a Widowmaker in the mix. DreamHack, we were there. Yeah. And that's what we sort of started to see. There was actually Nevix was in that on that particular lineup here. So these guys kind of developed using Widowmaker far more on maps like this with lots of verticality and space. But now I'm pretty sure that the Widowmaker dominance is going to be in the hands of Carpe on this map if he chooses to go for it. He's been so good on that role as well as his Tracer.
I've really liked when Florida, they've had Tvik play Genji. I think his Genji and 76 have both been quite well. I think you just need to figure out... Yeah, I think you need to figure out how you can really enable Logics to really kind of go off as Tracer. And obviously, you know, some new members coming into the fold for the Florida Mayhem. You know, once they start to incorporate some of their new players, so...
No logistical issues, hopefully.
Yeah, this team will probably look much different as we go into Stage 3 and Stage 4.
I know, it would look vastly different as well, and I wonder how long they'll take to properly coalesce around that new structure. But for now, this is the team that Florida Mayhem have sent forward. And it's a team that we hope to see great things from as time goes on.
It's kind of awesome to see how much the new additions to teams have really kind of, bear to be very well, right? Like Rascals made a difference for the Fuel, AKM as well. I thought having XQC in the lineup yesterday was massive for the Dallas Fuel. It was great to see. Great to see him play again. So I think a lot of these teams, once they add these new players, are going to be that much better.
This is really interesting. So normally, Zupe will be playing the Ana in this defensive composition for the Mayhem. But because you're going to switch Ana when you get to the second point, and Zebo's a Lucio player, we have a role swap between them. So that means Zupe's going to stay on Zenyatta for likely the entire map. Normally, we'd see him on the Ana.
See Carpe's stats throughout the match have just been absolutely insane. What, 6 deaths through our first 3 maps?
Yeah, it's 45 kills and 6 deaths.
Yeah, so easy. That's quite good. You don't really need to be a genius to figure that one out. As you see Carpe playing Widowmaker, just sitting up top, has great. So it's going to be very difficult for Tvik, right? Playing the 76 here against the Widowmaker. Doesn't want to like kind of hop out, maybe get himself or the supports killed. And you see a lot of progress being made on the payload. The Fusion got it all the way under the underpass now.
I mean, Logic's dying first in this fight again. We saw that happen a fair bit to the Mayhem, in that previous map. And oh dear, they've been moved out of position. The Philadelphia Fusion got past them somehow. Surely this was not the way this was supposed to go. And again, alone. Swoosh has to go in alone now. He's joined by Manager, but it's just the tanks. The rest of the Mayhem are still catching up. And now that's going to be the nano boost. Give it over to Swoosh here. Poco does get desuited in all fairness, and it's actually a good fight for the Mayhem. They allow the payload to get tantalizingly close to the checkpoint, but that's a good response. And they hold strong.
And Zebosai probably saves them during that fight. A nice nano boost there, and then he also connects with a 4-person biotic grenade on the payload. Denies a ton of healing.
Nasty.
So Zebosai potentially, saving the Mayhem there from having, point A taken relatively fast. EQO already has this Dragon Blade. See if he can put it to good use.
Okay. Frankie backs up a little bit there. Take a fair bit of damage. Just benefiting from the healing right now. Neptune, Dragon Blade time. Ikuro wants to start the party. There's 2 already. Backing away. Quick reflect there. Is finally managed to turn his attention to the very angry Cyber Ninja. But I mean, he's already cut the legs out from under the Mayhem, and he's got to get more. Zupe just gets broken into little pieces. And EQO, multi-kill god as he has been in this series, will pave the way for the Fusion to get that first checkpoint. And we're into the shuttle phase.
And Zupe uses the Transcendence there. The players above him on that canister.
Here we go.
Not able to get a ton of value.
Pull up a chair.
It's going to be Carpe taking out one. Will actually be Logix, who's still behind enemy lines. He's actually on the payload contesting. So this is quite good here from Florida. You're able to take out Boombox in Neptuno. Stop the payload from moving.
Primal Rage there being used. And this is what the Mayhem have to do, right? If they allow Carpe to do what he's been doing over the last few maps, then it will be done. It will just, there's no way that they're going to win this map. But if they control him like that and they get aggressive, and that's tough, it means, again, that Florida might have to leave their supports in compromising situations in order to bridge the gap between Carpe sitting way in the distance, or the Mercy, or Neptuno. So there's a risk in this defensive setup here for the Mayhem.
Yeah, I mean, they want to control high ground with Tvik playing 76, but do you want to give those open sightlines to Carpe, who's probably getting a damage boost now from Neptuno, who's been playing this Mercy here in the first half.
Okay, so Infrasight used. So now the Fusion realize how many people from the Mayhem are sat inside the shuttle, but Tvik managed to do it with Neptuno, so no mercy on the side of the Fusion, but they don't really seem to care. Frankie chases Tvik down, and despite the best efforts of the Florida Mayhem to try and get set up there, Logix is punished for trying to go for Boombox. Even though he gets the kill, That Transcendence was very interesting from Zupe, but it does force a disengage.
Yeah, but I mean, he uses it there. It's pretty much like a 3-on-1. You know, Manitin and Zebo are alive there, and they're very close to full health at the time.
I would like to see maybe what happened there, because there's maybe no reason to use that, and if they really want it in this next fight, they could have had double support options.
Oh, that is so nasty.
Oh,
he is getting the damage boost, to be quite fair. It is a headshot, though, as they're going to get Manitin low as well. You're going to see the Valkyrie come out here for the Philadelphia Fusion, using that Mercy ult offensively.
Carpe now as well got himself dug in this little niche here. No one's really paying him any attention. That's exactly what he wants. Now taken to the sky, but EQO's already paved the way for him. He's done the hard work, the heavy lifting. And I mean, how incredible must it be as one of the Philadelphia Fusion DPSs when you know you can rely on the other to do so much damage?
Oh, absolutely. And Carpe getting very close to the door there. I don't know if you caught him, but Neptuno in the Valkyrie towards the end just flies right up, is able to take out Civic at the high ground as 76. So Neptuno, one of the better battle mercies that we had. Stage 1, bringing it into stage 2. Here's EQO with the Dragon Blade. I wonder if they're going to use it when they see these players. Yep, that bottom left-hand corner.
What do you do about this one? Again, I'm pretty sure Zupe is awfully used to this exact kind of situation. Nothing to be done. Fraggy gets a brace of kills with the Primal Rage alone. And the Fusion with 3 minutes and 20 on the clock. Again, if you want to assess how fast this is from the Fusion, it's not bad. They were held up for about a little bit more than a minute on that shuttle phase. This is very good, though, to be fair. But now it's about squeaking the payload very close to the end of the map here and get around this very nasty corner. The right-hand turn is where a lot of teams get snarled up.
Yeah, that's where we see most teams get stalled out. It'll be EQO taking out Tavik, who's been now switched over to Widowmaker, trying to combat Carpe. It's going to force the rest of the members for the Mayhem to go back into spawn. This is dangerous. You can get caught in this spawn so bad where you have a lot of damage being reflected in the tanks for the Fusion just getting in your face.
Hello? Is this selfless gaming? Hello? Right up in the spawn. It's a playstyle we sort of saw back in the early Tracer and 76 combo days. Something that your boy Sinatra was a part of. EQO is very low here, that self-destruct. It doesn't actually claim anyone. It does, again, force that big step back from the Fusion. But this final keep going. Neptuno, that's very cheeky. He gets a big res on EQO, and EQO has the Dragon Blade. A lot of value there if EQO can make this work.
And they do have a Transcendence to combine with it. It was a nice Winston bubble from Fraggy to keep Neptuno up while he goes for the res. But they lose Boombox, though, who has that Transcendence. Most likely he'll have to back out. EQO is still able to stay alive up top. Puts Neptuno in a rough spot. Who's going up there trying to heal him.
It's so bizarre as well. They lose Boombox early in the fight, but EQO is still determined to try and get a one-for-one trade, and he gets it, which is huge, which means the Fusion don't have to disengage. Oh, Logix is very lucky to stay alive from that sound barrier. A sliver of health was all he had left, but that's Poco to claim Zupe again. The Zenyatta missing. He had his Transcendence as well, man. He's going to have to rush back onto the point and use it, but he might not get high value for it if his team are staggered at that moment. Carpe trying to deal with Logix here. Make it very, very hard, and Woy doesn't quite land the grappling hook. Doesn't matter though, because EQO was there to help out.
And you see Tavik switch over to May, just trying to stall this out. The Dragon Blade comes through, but there's that big Transcendence. But you see they actually split switch off on the rest of the team. They did a nice job body blocking the spawn door. Now it's going to force the stagger out here from Florida.
Now Tavik going to use that ice block, and Logic's trying to give a bit of tickle on towards the point, but he knows he can't stay for too long. Self-destruct from Manitin. Dome dropped down there by Fraggy, and that was EQO hiding inside of it. He's not affected now by that self-destruct. That's going to be the Valkyrie here for Neptuno. He already got the big res on Fraggy. Again, a lot of value in that resurrect play. He's been very good at setting up the Fusion to keep fighting in these protracted engagements, and Carpe now can sit back and play a bit of whack-a-mole. Swoosh put down. Unsightly looking yellow wall thrown up by Tavik there as well, just to displace, but he's knocked away. Determination, evident in the Philadelphia Fusion's last couple of fights, and they complete the map with 50 seconds in their time bank.
So you still do see some Widowmaker play, Widowmaker and Mercy play here in stage 2. Neptuno play and Mercy throughout that entire map, able to provide, Carpe when he gets dimed with a lot of healing, obviously, but then also the damage boost at range. Take a look here, just EQO, just trying to get some damage down. Ooh, it's a nasty reflect there.
I wonder what that was, because prior to that, he just jumped on top of Tavik and did the old-fashioned way. So plays like that are huge and often hard to spot, so good to see that one there. Also, we noticed earlier on when we saw Carpe on the Widowmaker being harassed by Logix towards that last fight, and he sort of missed the grappling hook and we thought he was done. I'm pretty sure EQO killed Logix with an cross-map shuriken. I'm pretty sure he was almost at the other end of that long stretch and just turned around and threw one back. So these guys, like those guys from Toy Story with like all the green guys, like Mind Linked or whatever, touching, like their fingers together and just reading each other's thoughts.
It just seems like I was always so impressed with how good Carpe and Shadowburn were as the DPS duo. And you're seeing, EQO and Carpe form a very good connection here for the Philadelphia Fusion. They'll play Mercy again on defense here with Carpe playing that Widowmaker. So you do get the effects of the Resurrection and whatnot.
This is astonishing. I mean, EQO often, that the Genji does go in and get finishing blows and just clean up kills. He's got 14 final blows, though. And we look at Carpe as well, who's obviously been doing a huge amount of lifting. Only 3 final blows. So you can see that EQO has been finishing off a lot of the kills that Carpe has been setting up, as well as Fraggy and Boombox. That we've seen that damage thrown in. The clean up crew EQO. God, that's getting really hard to say. Yeah. 3 syllables! Make it echo or something!
And he also gets a lot of good value out of the Dragon Blade. 7 Dragon Blade kills there in the first half. So the Florida Mayhem, they'll have Tvik play Genji, and Logix will play Widowmaker here.
Okay.
Trying to see if he can get the better of Carpe in that Widow versus Widow battle.
And Logix, one of 3 designated Widowmaker players on the Mayhem. We've seen Zebasai play it. We've seen Tvik attempt to play it as well. Now he needs to connect the hit scan. Delegate on the Mayhem needs to find his mark early. Carpe is happy to challenge. We don't always see defensive Widowmakers here. It definitely means you're feeling confident, right? Normally you just like dive the enemy Widow with your tanks and have a trace against you or something like that. Carpe fancies a bit of a brawl.
Here on the land client, it's kind of dangerous, right? Because if you have that 76 on defense, the other team has the Widow, like you would much rather have that Widowmaker on defense to kind of go at that Widow too. So I think that's why we see a little bit more Widowmaker on the defensive end here than some of you guys probably see at home.
Setting up in the server room here, there's no Junkrat or anything kind of weird on the defensive side of Philadelphia Fusion, so the Mayhem don't have to worry about getting blown to pieces, but that needs to be a concern. Logix is plucked from the mix. And obviously the Mayhem don't run Mercy on this map, so they're not going to res them up now. They're down to 5 players, but now they're also committed to this.
They're going to be able to take 2, though. They get both supports here. Their own supports, though, are getting dived. And Carpe on the ground, putting down some damage here on the Manitin. It's going to force them all the way into the back there. They really want this kill onto Poco. The payload is moving. They have 1 member on it, but it'll be Logix who falls at the hands of EQO.
Yeah, and now no one's on the payload. That's the problem. The Fusion now can just congregate around it and, tell Swoosh, come at us. If you want to move this payload, you need to fight us. Good decision making from Manitin. By the way, he was on 7 HP all the way from when he was inside. Now he's on 3, so he's lost 4 HP. Just a tickle would have got him D-suited, but no one's bothered to do it.
They do. They just get the D-suit. So now they've got the D-suit on the Manitin. We're going to have a Dragon Blade and both support ults. Zupe has that Transcendence, so you're going to have Tvik with his Blade. See if Florida can come out on top of this next fight.
Clearly the presence of Fraggy was enough to make Tvik think twice about hanging around and trying to 1v1 EQO. A bit of 1v1 anyway. So, we have a Transcendence here for Zupe. Tvik has a Dragon Blade, so that, essentially that's the bare bones that they're going to need to win a fight like this. But now Transcendence has responded to on the side of the Philadelphia Fusion. They have one, and Tvik gets nothing with his Dragon Blade. It's so frustrating to see that fizzle. If you are the Florida Mayhem, there's more to be done. Sound barrier dropped in. You can see Fraggy's getting a nice Valkyrie healing right now, so a lot of resources being dumped into keeping the Winston alive. Zupe seems to have found EQO now off on his own inside the server room, but now this might be a bit of a ruse. He might have baited them into Fraggy, who's now trying to chase down those supports while EQO can just deal with Logix. He's being healed as well at the same time by Nettuno. There's no way Logix is going to win this fight.
No, when he's getting pocketed by the Mercy, whether it's healing or damage boost, there's nothing that Logix can do. He's getting very low. He's going to get pushed out there by Fraggy. And, the Philadelphia Fusion, they're able to layer both of those support ults there because of how long Valkyrie lasts. They're able to just withstand the sound barrier as well. Nettuno providing a ton of healing. And just look at these supports for the Philadelphia Fusion already building up quite well towards their next round.
One fight, 75% already back for Boombox. Huge damage. And healing being done in the previous fight. Now the Dragon Blade coming out for EQO. Surely can one up Tvik, and he has done so. Zebasai being removed, Zupe's low. Fraggy just gets the job done by landing on him. Resurrects to come in just in case. EQO is brought back. Fraggy cannot be. He needs to walk a long way back. The Fusion opt to give a lot of space, allow the Mayhem to approach, and make sure they buy enough time. This could be nasty. 1 kill here from Carpe, and it's over for the Mayhem.
And just look at how fast the Fusion supports it build up towards their ultimates compared to the Mayhem. The previous fight, you saw all support ults used. 1 more fight goes by, and you're going to have both support ults here for Philadelphia. Just the Mercy helping out the Zen and vice versa.
No respect, no quarter. That's the way the Fusion been playing this map out. Carpe bought 3 seconds just from standing on the bridge and looking at them. Now EQO is down. Nettuno might fancy trying to go for a bit of, he does get the Resurrector. He didn't have to use the Valkyrie to do that, which he does now. Roll with Carpe, who again, he's watching the payload. He needs to make sure that they don't get back capped. The rest of the Fusion are trying to pinch them here from two sides. Self-destruct, throwing in Walking Pogo, fine for it, very little. He's actually taken down by Twix Dragon Blade after he gets out of the mech. He was hoping to be able to resuit with that play, but it won't be an option for him now. Frankie's in front of Tvik, not focusing down the Genji yet, and the Primal Rage is being used just to buy a little bit more time. Again, Valkyrie having timed out a few seconds ago. It looks like the Fusion know they need to give a little bit of space here. Maybe regroup and come back into the fight with full force.
Oh, they're able to get onto the payload in the final seconds. Fraggy contests it. It's going to be the sound barrier that comes in for the Florida Mayhem, trying to keep everybody topped up. It'll be Fraggy getting resurrected there by Neptuno. He's just trying to make a difference on the payload, but this one looks like one that Florida should be able to take, Mitch.
Another one of those classic Supe moments. He gets himself 2 kills at D-Suit, then Zebasai finds 1. Finally, the Mayhem wake up. Dire Straits will be putting it very politely, diplomatically even, but now they at least have a chance to play on. Finishing the map, of course, needs to occur, but at least now they have a chance to deny the Fusion an opportunity to set up inside this shuttle, because otherwise for attacking teams this can be a very hard part of the map to play. Swoosh needs to not die here. I know that sounds really obvious, but if they lose him, it's going to be really nasty.
If Carpe switch over to Tracer, so it's going to be a very aggressive composition that comes out for the Philadelphia Fusion. Not really too determined on holding that high ground for Philadelphia. You want to take the fight on the ground with this dive.
Supe down already. That's not what the Mayhem are looking for here. Getting snarled up on this part of the map would surely be their downfall. Frankie and EQO have actually fallen though, so good response from the Mayhem. Losing Zenyatta early in the fight, as Zenyatta, who had Transcendence no less, and still able to come back. Zebasai is actually really starting to tick up now. He found a couple kills in that last fight. He kills Neptuno, 1 Carpe in that one. He's glad to be back on that hero. I know that for sure, and I don't know if the Fusion will contest this. Okay, they do. They put Poco on. They're going to trickle in one by one. But Tvik might have something else to say about that. The Transcendence now coming out from Boombox here, but it's going to be 1 as well from Zupe.
Yeah, you're going to have EQO with his Dragon Blade. He's going to pull it out, see if he can get anything with it. Self-destruct, forces him off the point. It's going to be a sound barrier that comes down for the Mayhem. Neptuno gets a res on the Poco there right in the middle of the action. He's able to get back in his mech.
That's massive for Poco now. He has the chance to use that defense matrix to keep his supports alive in a brawl. That's so massive. EQO found himself the DC on Manaton's Everside, falling by the wayside. And now Poco just doing Poco things. It was the self-destruct kill that claimed Swoosh in the end. Great resurrect from Neptuno, by the way, in the thick of the action. Gets Poco back, and Poco's able to quickly get back in his mech before he gets burst down. It can be tough as Mini Diva to do that.
40 seconds left. Tvik will switch off of Genji, just use his blade, will go over to Widowmaker. So trying to get an early pick that could open things up here for the Mayhem. He's going to get it. He's going to get one on the boombox.
Oh, Supe is low as well. That's not the start. Neptuno, big resurrect from him, but Poco's been desuited rather early on into the fight, but it may not matter. Tvik's now gone, so they don't have the Widowmaker that can just sit back in the distance. I think that was a back cap attempt from the Florida Mayhem, but the Philadelphia Fusion, they're just too canny for the cantankerous Floridians now. Carpe's in, desuit Manaton, Swoosh removed, he'll find another one and get the job done. Clean as a whistle, Carpe. Judge, jury, and executioner he has been in this series. And with no time left, Logix can only attempt. It was a token effort to get back. And they will fall short. The Mayhem in general. 4-0 for the Philly Fusion.
And EQO in his second match here puts on a show in our final map. 42 limbs, 22 final blows playing Genji, 10 Dragon Blade kills. Just an insane game here. You expect maybe a little nerves like your second game, but none of that as Philadelphia rolls through Florida.
You think that, right, about something like EQO, but I spoke to him at the Fusion House not too long ago, and he just said, I've been waiting for so long to play, like, I just know I'm going to get up there, I'm going to do my best. He reckons he's just been sat in the, waiting to get here first and then to jump into his team and start screaming. He's looking so good. What a clever, clever pickup for the Philadelphia Fusion. Their whole team firing on all cylinders right now, and the Florida Mayhem do come up well and truly short. Philly go from strength to strength. What a match. We're going to head over the desk. We're going to have that one broken down by our experts.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Zoe, and I'm joined by no other than EQO. Please give it up for this young man right next to me, and of course his team, who just took that game convincingly over the Florida Mayhem. Now, we unfortunately didn't see you during stage 1 on this very stage, but you're coming up here with a boom. You are dominating those other teams on your Genji. What makes you gel so well, despite not having that much time to actually play with your team?
I'm just like a really positive player, so we just always keep positive and work on our mistakes. That's why like we mesh so good together, especially on match. Like everyone is like really focused, and I'm like calling a lot, and it's really easy like when your Genji calls like to mesh with like Carpe and Fraggy because they know what I'm doing. So that's like one of our key to success.
All right, well, it's definitely working for you guys so far. Now, how would you compare your style versus Shadowburn's style?
Like Shadowburn is more like the deadly assassin. He's like hides place and like get picks, like really like usual for him. And I'm just like doing a lot of damage, building blades fast. You know, like that's my play. So like he's like assassin. I'm just like like a DPS Genji.
Just a DPS Genji, just your average everyday DPS Genji, no biggie, but it seems to work for you very well. Your team is incredible international, and you're the only player in the whole Overwatch League who's actually coming from Israel. What's the support like from home?
There's like a lot of support. I always get message from Israeli people that they're like proud of having like an Israeli guy representing their country. So that's like really nice, and like I'm proud of it.
You should be, definitely. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me for a quick chat, and we're now heading over to the desk to break down the action.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Big win there for EQO and the Philadelphia Fusion. That's the second here in the first week of Stage 2. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Puckett. I got Bren. I got Crumbs with me once again. And we got to talk about how good this Philadelphia Fusion squad is. Every attack looked effortless from this team. Their defense, very strong as well. They full held Florida multiple times throughout this series.
Yeah, and in general, I think this is a testament to how well they're working together. I mentioned in the pre-show as well, speaking to this team, they're working on their own games and things, and I really do, honestly, I gotta say, it's showing in leaps and bounds. This is one of the best teams, I think, in Stage 2 right now, which is quite a claim coming from myself, but it is completely true. I feel like their dive is on almost another level, and I've got an excellent replay that I can show you as well, really, as to how this is going on and why this is happening. And just right here, you can see Florida Mayhem, they're looking for a dive and trying to set themselves up into the back lines. Logics will join them at a later date, and that's the aim for Florida right now, is to try and pick off a key target. They ideally are going to be wanting to go for these supports in the backline here, Boombox and Neptuno, but unfortunately, they can't do that. They're currently tucked away in a little nest egg in the back of the cafe, so they're not going to be doing it. And in the industry, we like to call this giving them the business, because Philadelphia, they just completely work around it, right? They move on. If we play this out a little bit slowly, so you can really see exactly what's going on, Florida work around, and this is the key moment right here. So you notice Zupe completely out of position once again, but this is not a bad thing for Florida. This is just their style. The bad thing is, however, Philadelphia Fusion have clocked it pretty easily, and now you're going to notice as well, the rest of the team comes out, and they will dive immediately straight onto him from here. And because as well, the supports, they can't actually get onto them into the back lines, it means the only target that Florida can focus is EQO on the Roadhog. And I mean, if you've been playing Overwatch at all, you will know you can't really focus down the Roadhog. So EQO takes so long to die, and they just dive onto Zupe into the back lines, bringing him down, immediately bringing down one of the supports, a key pick for Philadelphia Fusion, and the reason why they took this fight so convincingly. And this is a reoccurring theme throughout almost the entirety of this match, which is the Philadelphia dive, which is so, honestly, so on point in terms of they knew exactly what kind of targets they were pointing at. They know exactly where to be at the right times. And because they're missing that one healer, the only healer they have is Zebasai on the Lucio. Doesn't provide enough heals for them to get back up and get back into the team fight.
I hope you guys enjoy watching those map top downs as much as I do, because it was amazing to watch, of course, the tanks working with the DPS, but also the Lucio, Neptuno, the guy we barely talk about whenever Philly plays. He had so many crucial boops, keeping his teammates alive, and nice job by Boombox as well. The Moira play has been stellar.
I like how you mentioned that it's not a mistake, it's just a play style that Zupe is out of position.
Well,
okay, listen. It's the way you play Zenyatta, right? You want to make this argument with me, but here's the reason behind it.
I'm just poking fun.
So yeah, it's because Florida, they don't, when you play against teams normally, you will not be exploited that hard in terms of the positioning. Normally, when teams get dove upon, they focus on the front lines that are being dove, so they don't have to worry about their back lines as much. But Philadelphia here, this was a reoccurring theme, and like, you know, Florida, they just didn't adapt to it as the game was going on.
Yeah, got to protect that Zen a little bit better in the future.
That's some notes for you on the ranked games, Puppet.
No, I'm never going to help you. All right, let's talk about the final map here. We knew the series was already going in favor of the Fusion, but map count matters so much, as you saw at the end of the Stage 1 playoffs. So let's take a look at some of the early moments, because you said right away, grab this clip. What did Zebasai do that caught you?
It was just a tasty play, and I feel like, again, because we're hammering on about how Florida are actually playing pretty badly, but I don't think that's the case at all. I just feel like it's Philadelphia Fusion playing really, really well. This was just a little clip of Zebasai on the Ana on a role that he's not really known too well. We haven't seen a lot of Ana because Mercy was the meta in Stage 1 so much, but it was just fantastic. The bio grenade connected it onto 3 members, got it onto Swoosh as well, so he could keep Swoosh up as well alive during the fight while it was going on. Just in general, Florida are actually not a bad team. It's just Philadelphia overpowering.
Well, I think we have to remember, too, that Ana's bio nade right now is a crazy ability. When you've got Trans AoE's healing and Lucio's AoE healing, these grenades make a huge swing in every team fight. So you have to keep your eyes out on Ana's when they make these plays. And they don't look very flashy, but they are very impactful.
Now, Crumbs, we, of course, were watching Florida on their attack, and we saw Zebasai using his ults well. Philadelphia seemed to have an answer, though, every single time that it looked like Florida was going to make some moves. What was your highlight?
Well, so when you have the Genji, the Dragon Blade, it's basically a rock, paper, scissors with the Transcendence. And typically you see the Trans being popped as an answer to it. But this time around, he gets a Trans at this, he gets a Blade, he gets a, I think this ends up being like a 4K with Trans happening at the same time. So it's a great heads-up play from the Philadelphia Fusion because the Zenyatta was at the bottom. And this is just a recurring theme for the Mayhem. They are struggling to utilize their Zenyatta, and I think it's, as you say, it's not so much them, but the pressure that Philly is putting on them is crazy. I mean, you're holding a blade for a minute. We got Winston's jumping at you.
Yeah.
When do you bust out the trans? And the answer seems to be
Normally,
whenever Philly feels like it, because they're just going to take it out of you when they feel like killing you.
Yeah, it's the point I was trying to make was that Florida, they play against any other team, and they're not going to be having these troubles, really. It's just the fact that Philadelphia have been so concise with their dives, always onto the right targets, exploiting the fact that they're just minor, a few literally seconds of being in the wrong position at the wrong time, and they immediately just win the team fight off the back of it. Just really, honestly, sublime play coming out from Philadelphia Fusion.
If you're a Florida fan, don't worry. Your team still has some time, but they are continuing to improve. Today, Philadelphia was just a beast to go up against, and it's part because we couldn't name just one player of the match. These are our players of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP. We had to go with the duo. Carpe and EQO took over this series, and it all started back on game 1. 0 deaths for the boys.
I mean, it's insane, right? You knew that Carpe and Shadowburn were already a duo that could win you games against any team in the league, but now you have EQO as well that seems to be just as good, if not better, and you're wondering, how can this team even go? Do they have higher highs than these with the DPS? Probably, which is insane.
Let's not sugarcoat it, Brendan. Is this duo better than what we saw with Carpe and Shadowburn?
I feel like it's different strokes for different folks. All right, that's the way I'm gonna go with this.
That's a PC answer right there.
No, it's not. And here's the reasoning behind it, right? Because Shadowburn, like EQO was saying in the interview, EQO was saying Shadowburn is like this assassin guy, right? He gets the picks for his team. And we're now in a meta game where Genji's, it's much harder to get these picks like he might have been used to because Lucio is in the game. Lucio can boop you away when you're trying to go for those dashes. So EQO's playstyle definitely fits this current meta game a lot better, and Philadelphia have just completely worked around it.
And if you look at some of these numbers, keep your eyes on the final blows. 112 final blows from this duo. You compare that to Miami, or Florida Mayhem rather, just 47.
Yes, I mean, the game was an absolute stomp, but what really I think stands out for me is the fact that the kill participation was nearing 50% and above for these teams, where their league average is like 30% or even lower. The fact that these guys are so involved with what the rest of the team is doing is a great sign, because it's coordinated DPS, making it work with the team. That's how you want to be playing DPS anyways.
I love it. That is going to do it for our halftime and our post-game coverage of the first match. But coming up next, we got a big one. Are you guys excited? You still enjoying your Saturday here in the Blizzard Arena? When we come back, we got a good one. It's Boston versus Houston. Don't go anywhere.